Okay, welcome everybody. So the first thing that we want to cover is essentially what we touched on at the beginning of last time's lecture, which was that stress is an effect. Right? One of the things that we're very strong on in this philosophy is that the world comprises cause and effect. Your personality, your mind and intellect, your physical body, the world around us, the weather, everything is an effect of prior causes. And so the stress that we experience is not a random occurrence. We may not be able to figure out what a particular cause of our stress is in terms of one-to-one, but what we can say is that it's not a random occurrence. There is a cause of stress. What most of us tend to do, because we have what we call an extroverted mind, we tend to attribute the causes of stress to things outside of ourselves. This is one of the fundamental principles of Vedanta that we try to put across, is that the causes of stress are always internal. So when we say this, what we need to remember is the distinction between a trigger and a cause. All right? And I always give the same example. I'm at a social event with my wife, and I see her speaking on the other side of the room to a taller, more handsome stranger. What do I experience? A little bit of jealousy. It's a stressful emotion. Can I say that the cause of my stress is my wife talking to the handsome stranger? No, of course not. If that were the case, then I would walk up to my wife and say, "You are causing me stress, you have to stop it. Stop talking to that fellow." What would she say to me, hopefully? "Get out of here." All right? The cause of my stress is my attachment and possessiveness for my wife. It's an internal thing. Now, watching my wife speak to a handsome stranger, that's a trigger. It triggers my cause. Now, the world is full of triggers, and we actually have an obligation to improve the world where we can. But we have to recognize that no matter what we do to improve the world, there are always going to be triggers around us. So what we can do is work on the internal causes of stress. So in order to do that, we have to understand the nature of the mind. This is where we got into last time. So last time we covered likes and dislikes and the rambling nature of the mind. We explained how these two aspects of every person's mind contributes to stress, and we also discussed how we can manage these aspects. So this is why we call these universal values. Another word for this philosophy is Sanatana Dharma, which means eternal principles. So what that means is the principles that we discuss here are applicable to every human being, and regardless of time, place, race, religion, gender, you name it. It's true for all of us. Even a person who has achieved human perfection, a self-realized soul, an enlightened being, that person's mind still has all of these qualities. In fact, I can remember something that our teacher said once. He was explaining exactly this concept. Now, we accept that he's at a very high spiritual level of development. He says, your mind, my mind are exactly the same. The difference is that for the past 60 years, I have kept my mind under control. I have been managing my mind. But still, the nature of, you take an enlightened person, his mind, her mind still has all of these categories. The difference is our capacity to manage our own minds. So, what's important to remember is that we can't manage something if we don't understand it. If we don't know what's going on in our own minds, then it's very difficult to label it. This is my likes and dislikes functioning. This is my attachment. And then it will be difficult to manage that aspect. So this is where the knowledge is so important. It educates me on the quality and the nature of my own mind. Then I can understand what it's doing and work with it appropriately. So the next aspect that we want to cover when it comes to the causes of stress is desire. And you see a little pictorial diagram up on the top right-hand corner. Why is that there? What does that represent? Desire. How does it represent desire? Burning fire within. Yeah, it's a good way to put it actually. When we're caught up in desire, we feel that we're burning with desire. In fact, we have this phrase. What else might this be talking about? Fire is insatiable. Look at these wildfires. One cigarette butt thrown out the window. And what does it do? It's a conflagration that lasts, I believe the Thomas fire only a couple of weeks ago got to 100% containment. So as long as there is fuel, the fire will continue to burn. No sample of fire ever says, it's a lot of burning, that's enough, now I will stop. So too with my desires. Desires never inhibit themselves, they never control themselves, they never say, I've had enough, thank you, no more. Desire is insatiable, and this is part of the problem. So then let's look at the etiology of desire. Where does desire come from? So the first thing we want to look at is this sense of incompleteness that every human being experiences. At the core of our desires is a sense of not being whole, not being complete, things not being as they are. What happens is that from this sense of incompleteness, our thoughts flow out into the world and they alight upon the beautiful objects and beings and potential experiences that the world contains. And the mind says, if I get that, then my sense of incompleteness will be diminished. If I can just get that, then I will be happy. This is what the mind says. And so the mind flows continuously out towards that object. I want it, I want it, I want it. This is desire. So a desire then is made up of thoughts. It's made up of the thoughts of the mind that are flowing without my proper regulation or direction. They're just flowing on their own. And each person will have a different object. So take an analogy. We're both flicking through the same newspaper in the morning. And I'm flicking through and I'm casting my eyes over the weekend section, so are you. And I see the LA Philharmonic. Nothing happens. I glance over it and keep going. Then I see cricket match. Aha! There's a cricket match being played. My attention flows straight to that headline. You're on the other side of the table. You see cricket match, nothing happens. LA Philharmonic, there goes your attention. Your thoughts are drawn out into the world. So we each have different objects of desire, but the phenomenon is the same for all of us. We feel a sense of incompleteness, things not being quite right. The mind then says, well, maybe if I get that object, I'll be happy. The problem is that when we acquire and enjoy the objects of desire, we are temporarily satisfying the symptom, which is that feeling of agitation. What we are not doing is addressing the cause. And so desire will continue again and again and again. So this is how we understand desire. It's essentially an uncontrolled or indiscriminate flow of thought set up from the mind to some object or being in the world. These thought currents are desire. Okay, any questions on that?